We are here with David Kukkola, and we are doing a traditional healers forum from the four corners of the world. We have been talking about gratitude and soulful living and using our training to take our relationships into a better place. So, David, let's continue our discussion. We have Teya Valentina also in the house.
Thank you very much, LaBrava. And we've been talking this last hour and a half on gratitude, and we had Bruce Elijah, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation, coming in with that opening prayer and speaking to us about the seven grandfathers and the seven teachings of honesty, love, humility, truth, wisdom, respect, and bravery. And how, as each and every one of us, if we can do a check-in and ask ourselves each morning at sunrise or any time during the day, how am I with those? And where am I slacking? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Because we all have them, and there's no judgment in it. It's just like, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm going to be a little more humble today.
Do I have to be? Just kidding. I do find that a lot of times, sometimes just a kind word is enough to really help somebody on their way.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? No, there's truth. And so we had those wonderful words from Bruce, and then we had our dear brother Dennis Banks and giving us, again, an accounting of his long walk and his gratitude for life and the way that he shares that with his communities. And so that each and every one of us, I think what we're trying to say here tonight is that all of us are special. There's a specialness in each and every one of us, and a divine purpose. I call it divine because I believe each and every one of us has come here to contribute to this life. Not only to ourselves, but to our families, to our communities, and to our nation, to occupy it. We're to occupy the space in those seven sacred ways. And can we bring that forward? Can we teach that to our children? And in that practice of gratitude, of thanking creation for giving me another day here, I'm starting to adjust that balance of trade, if you will. I remember about 15 years ago when Bruce and I were working together down in New Mexico on doing some healing retreats, and I was sitting next to him, and I was just thinking to myself, man, how can I feel the gratitude that man feels? Because honestly, I didn't. And I felt sad. I was like, man, I was like, sheesh. And I mean, I've been doing ceremonies, I've been doing the work, but man, I'm still not there. And it's almost a sense of, am I ever going to be there? Or is it just some kind of make-believe story? And then Bruce says, I said, Bruce, how do you be in that good way all the time? I said, my goodness. He says, well, David, he says, it's been a long journey for me too, but I'm conscious of which energy I feed. Oh. And he says there comes a point when you say them gratitude prayers for long enough, and each and every one of us got our own journey, and I can't tell you when that day's going to come. Sometimes I call it earning the grace of God. But so there comes a day when you continue those gratitude prayers and that thankfulness, that something happens. And all I can tell you is that you start feeling happy. Happiness is the reward. But I don't know any other way. And so that in that gratitude, let us all remember that let us start seeing the goodness in life too.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's start seeing all that we do have. And I always tell people, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small one. It can be that little smile on your face. And each day when I go home at night, I can remember that, you know what, I saw that smile on that LaBrava's face today. Wow, thank you.
Right?
And a big thank you.
Well, what would you say if you had a client that was in a really dark space and really, at the time, just could not find anything to be grateful for? How do we help people like that? It's very easy for us to say, look at my life, you should find something.
Right.
It's not that easy.
Right.
So I was wondering, what could we do for those kinds of people?
There's a time and place for everything. And so in that place of emptiness, that maybe that void, that dark hole that maybe you've climbed into, that the most important thing, I think, for all of us is to remember is that we can't do this journey alone. And so it's in that place, that's where we say, hey, Teya, will you sit next to me for a little bit? I'm just not feeling too good. So it's not, we're no fixing it. We're not trying to change it. But you know what? I need help. Mm-hmm. And it's in that conjoining of, you know what? This is my truth. This is where I am. Mm-hmm. And is it okay? Mm-hmm. And somewhere in there, it works its way into our village.
I agree. I feel like for the first show, I think, that we did, and I think I said on air that I was just finishing being with in sessions all day and being very present and loving the depth of my work and the people, and yet I knew I needed to somehow come in and see you, and needed my own assistance before I proceeded to go and pick up my children, cook dinner, and begin that journey of my life in terms of not, I still hold that space, and yet we need each other. Mm-hmm. We need each other, and that's what I had written down here earlier was touch and connection. Mm-hmm. We're in these beautiful, amazing vessels, and sometimes, we have these pains and these sensations, these body sensations, and yet I know that when clients come to see me, and whether we're sitting across from each other or they're on the table, if I can just even hold their head, just hold someone's head and we breathe together. Mm-hmm. A lot of times grief can just be poured out, or tears can be poured out, or the breath can deepen. And then the wave of gratitude comes. It's like there's a heaviness that's been lifted. Mm-hmm. And just being present with each other. We don't have to fix it. I don't have to change it. I don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. We just are together.
Yeah. And so it's that need for each other, realizing that the only thing we do alone is usually born alone and die alone. And in between, we're all leaning on each other. And that whole piece of gratitude that you're talking about, LaBrava, and questioning of, how do we find gratitude in those dark times? And it really becomes a practice of learning how to give gratitude to all of life. We give gratitude for the money in the bank so that my check don't bounce. And we give gratitude when I ain't got no money in the bank, because then I ain't going to spend. And so, in other words, the traditional healing, the scope, the psychology, the philosophy of traditional healing is around embracing all my relations.
All my relations.
All my relations. The highs and the lows. We're living in a modern culture that wants to stamp out the dark side. They want to put the poor children in some kind of slave camp so they can learn how to work. We're not talking about that. We're talking about showing gratitude to all my relations, all of life, so we can welcome each other in that soulful way. There's enough food here to feed our people. There's enough plant medicines to heal our people. If the FDA, AMA get out of our way. We have the resources. We have the power. We have to reclaim it through these traditional practices that have been given to us, that we've been practicing for thousands of years, that have been forgotten, that have been put on in the underground. The hidden medicines. We need to bring them back.
And it's very, very simple. And I just speak from a woman's perspective. Is that I was blessed to have a mother that would give me oral tradition. She never read from a book. My father did that, and that was beautiful. But I was given oral tradition, the stories. And not all the stories were light and fluffy. These were deep, deep stories. So part of a traditional healer's journey, and whoever's listening, you can begin right now. What is your story? Even if you don't know your grandmother or your great-grandmother, you begin it now for the next 7 generations as women. And you may be exhausted from working 2 jobs. You may be doing it all, but even if it's 3 minutes before your children go to sleep, and even if you just place your hand on their back and you breathe with them, and kiss their cheek goodnight, and give them a little bit. Give them a little bit. And that's that will, that ability to respond, responsibility. And I pray for that because I don't always have it. And I've been trained. Somehow I've been given these gifts of training, and I forget. But in the forgetting, there's that humility that we are human beings, and then we can begin again. And in this modern day culture, there's this sense of it has to look good, and everything has to, the teeth, everything, no lines, no yellow teeth, no crooked teeth, no nothing, right? So here we are, beauty way, missed stitches and all.
Hi. Yeah.
I did want to ask a little bit about the flip side of all that. We have always taught our children to come to us when they're in need, when they're lonely, they're in trouble. How can we teach our children that it's as important to be there for somebody else?
How to give. Yeah, that's probably the best question of the evening.
So I guess there's no answer, but I would like to encourage our listeners to also teach their children to give as well as to receive.
I believe that as we raise our children, that we educate them, we teach them that happiness is found in the giving. That it's in the giving that you're going to find your place here. And you can also learn how to receive, because that's the flip side of giving, is receiving. It's not taking, it's receiving. But how to give of yourself. Because we are definitely living in a very nihilistic, narcissistic society, meaning self-obsessed.
Yes, that's why.
And so our children, that's what they get. That's on the mat. So how do they learn giving? Through you giving.
Well, I feel that we need to, at a certain age, create that container as parents, and it takes will forces to plan how are they going to give. This Christmas Eve, the boys will be going up to Santa Rosa and be supporting food preparation, and they're at the age where they have to be doing that in that way. And many of the schools actually have that in place at this time, where there's a sense of doing something and giving. It's part of our culture. It's entitled. We live in the Bay Area, and even if there's that sense of not having enough, I think parents tend to give to their children in a way, in that consumer type way.
Yeah, I'm just sensing that whole concept of giving, somehow it's tied into a demand. And
versus a natural
yes.
human
response
because we
yes.
want to.
And so my sense of that is that we as adults, the slaves that so many of us are, economic slaves, modern day slaves, that we're living in such a state of stress and tension that usually when we say to our kids, "You're selfish. How come you're not doing that?" We're not coming from that place of setting an example for them. And so I say that the best way to teach our children is how we live our lives. And so if you're worried about where our children are going, well, then we as adults have to come together and say, what is it that we've taught them? Something's awry. And so it's not the children that are the problem. It's those of us who are the adults, or claim to be adults. I truly believe that most people are just maybe older in age, but haven't truly become adults yet. There's a lot of lack of maturity, what I'm seeing out here in this world. And so then we go, well, what does maturity mean? I think Bruce coins it quite well in his opening prayer. And how many of us can embrace that? Where have any of us even heard those teachings? This is what an elder looks like. And so again, it goes back to, how do we teach our children? We clean up our act.
Absolutely.
We give them a world that there's a future, there's a possibility of survival. We give them a world of abundance. We give them a world that sees them, loves them, holds them, and also holds them accountable.
Right. There's that sense of discipline, and the sense of, this morning it's like in our household, there is wood that needs to be chopped, or the house will not be warm. That's just how we happen to be living. And so that's part of what they have to do, and they know that won't happen. And that certain things need to happen because we live as a unit, and it just won't function. I won't be able to be present with them if they're not unloading the dishes, if they're not loading up the dishes, if they're not helping out. So I think that ability to respond, and then also that we live in a small community and everyone knows each other. And they know that, you need to pick up 7 pieces of trash before you start basketball practice, or before you begin something, because you want to keep this beautiful West Marin that we live in, that we are privileged to live in.
And so as we're coming to the end here, I want to give a prayer of thankfulness. I want to say a big thank you to my 2 daughters, Suska and Kasha, and to all my grandchildren. I want to give a big aloha to my mother, who's still here with us, and my father, who's on the other side and now an ancestor. I want to say a big aloha to my older brother, who passed away here a couple months ago. That you're in my heart, and I want to thank life for all that it gives and all that it takes, because it does both. And I want all of you out there to see if you can't find some way and saying that big aloha, that big thank you for some of those things that are in your life today. And if nothing else, thank life itself for the few moments that we're here. And if you can't see the big things, then see if you can find the small things, because that's where I found it. It's in those small things.
And when you don't feel like being thankful or even gratitude, it's like you pray for the willingness to be. Please help me. There's that sense of invocation or prayer, of asking for it when you don't feel it.
Yes, and that somewhere in that place that you're talking about, Teya, it's what I say to a lot of people and to myself is I pray for understanding. Because when I understand it, then there's a reason. There's something in there for me. I believe life is a teacher. This is a learning experience from the time you're born until the time you leave. This is a learning experience. There's no age limit. My grandchildren are teaching me. I'm teaching them. Aloha, gratitude, much love.
Blessings.
It's now the end of our time together, and it's always been wonderful. It's always been very enlightening, and I do have thoughts and wisdom to take home with me tonight. And before we close, I wanted to say a few things. I wanted to remind people that 29th is the anniversary of the massacre at Wounded Knee in 1890, and the pain and the loss is still here. People still remember. People still know that they've lost relatives and things. So I wanted people to remember that. And also I wanted to say happy birthday to Tonali. He was actually born 1 year when we were doing our show. And it was Huitzilopochtli's birthday, and he was born while the show was on. And that was one of the most memorable shows. We will be bringing more of this kind of programming, but before you tell us a little bit about the next show, do you have any last words to maybe just wrap up this year with? It's been a real difficult year for a lot of people.
I want to thank the Creator for each day that I've been able to walk this walk. I want to thank the Creator, those above me, those behind me, those known and unknown, for helping me get my life more in order, help me become that better man that I was born to be. I want to give a big thank you to the challenges, the teachings that have hit me this year. And each challenge I know is an initiation into another level of awareness. And so I want to say a big thank you to all that has come my way. And I'm looking forward to the next wave that's coming this new year, because it's going to be a good one.
Thank you, everybody. So our next program will be March the 30th. And also, people who are interested in getting to know more about David and the work he does, you can go to Living Medicine's Traditional Healing Center, and that's 85 Bolinas Road, number 7 in Fairfax, California. And also, we have a phone number here, 415-317-7032. I want to thank everybody, our sponsors and our supporters. I want to thank Dennis Banks, of course, and all those walking for freedom and justice for Leonard Peltier. I want to thank Marshall for the beautiful music that came from your heart into our heart. We want to thank shopnaturallystoked.com. It's an online emporium for all things meaty. And then arunca.com, an online green company offering eco-friendly products and by companies that use fair trade practices. And, of course, Model Mechanics, foreign and domestic automotive tune-ups and repair. Teya, would you like to let our listeners know how they can contact you and find out more about the work you do?
Sure. You can contact me if you have any questions at all about the work that I do at teyavalentina.com, TEYAVALENTINA.com. Blessings and Happy New Year.
Well, thank you all very, very much. And we're going to bring it back to Gavilan. I want to thank our engineers, thank Mr. Chuch, and I want to thank my Chaske for being there today. So, Gavilan, back to you.
Thank you so much, LaBrava, and thank you, David, thank you, Teya, and thank you, Marshal. And I'd like to take a minute here to also thank our engineer tonight, Mr. Chuch, and also Gabriel for being here with us, and all you traditional healers involved with the forum from the Four Corners. Thank you, and also thank Bruce Elijah for opening up with blessing and prayer. And again, if you want more information, you can check out the site with David Kukkola, Again, the number is 415-317-7032, or you can go to the online site at dksami@mac.com. Thank you so much. You've been listening to La Onda Bajita's feature presentation tonight of a traditional healers forum from the four corners of the world. Thank you again, Mr. Chooch, and everyone listening tonight for your support. And we'll be back here in the new year, 2012, in the month of March.
I was coughing like nobody's.
It's the cough button here. I was trying to be supportive.
Pressing. Do I have to press all of them?
Well, yeah, because all mics are on.
I'm sorry. Next time.
You know what? This is what makes it alive and makes it believable because they're real human beings. They're real problems.
Real story,
No way in real life. What?
I love using like my mom's
dream. I think
dream.
the last song, I really loved that one.
Oh, I get to look that up.
Yeah, that and the second to last song was especially, I just really loved that.
Oh.
Woo!
Good job, everyone. Good job, Marshal. Good,
I love your songs. They went right in. There was like the lyrics that said something about a checkout person.
That was assumptions making. That's one of the 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions.
Entra
Yes.
to the party.
Ah.
I think there's some free form. What? My mom didn't invite
Hey,
me.
good one.
I can never. I can never.
Here, get this one. Get this one. Get this one. Yeah. For the people.
How old is your mom?
Yeah.
Indonesian and they have that
On.
intuition.
Thank you.